Afternoon, everyone. My name is Giselle. I'm the president of Tough Leaf. We're very excited to have you all here today. Thanks for coming on this snowy day. And I'm gonna give it over to Tanya, who's gonna be leading our panel.
Very good. Thank you so much. So I'm gonna put my little lady glasses on. So I'm Tanya Pope, and I wear a lot of hats. First, as the Assistant Vice President of University Supplier Diversity at Columbia University, I am also a member of the Tough Leaf Advisory Board. And some of you might have heard about a little teeny tiny consulting firm down in Delaware called the Pope Consulting Group. I have a little bit to do with that too. So thank you for coming out on this beautiful sunny day. We really appreciate your being here. I want to thank Tough Leaf for hosting this event. Awesome pizza. Really good. Yeah. And enough about me. We've got a wonderful panel here tonight. Tonight we're going to discuss overcoming diversity procurement challenges and all that that means. I am going to introduce you or just tell you the names of each of our panelists, and then they are going to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their companies. So first, we have Mr. John Rooney of Gilbane Construction. We have Ms. Letitia Smith from WTS, Mr. Wayne Lambert from Turner and Townsend, and Mr. Khalid David from TrackFlow. So John, why don't you get us started? Tell us a little bit about yourself, about Gilbane, and what you folks are doing around diversity.
Great, thank you, Tanya. Hello? Hello?
Sorry, I think these are all.
Great, nice, great. Hello. All right, hi everybody. So my name is John Rooney, and I am the area director for economic inclusion for Gilbane Building Company, the New York division, and soon to be the Mid-Atlantic division as well. And so I've been with Gilbane for 4 years, obviously in construction, and before that I was with New York City Economic Development Corporation for 7 years, building out MWBE programming for the city. Those of you that know EDC, you might know that it's not a city agency, so we were kind of free to be innovative in kind of inventing and seeing what worked as far as MWBE programming goes. And I care very much about this work. I would not be with Gilbane for 4 years if I didn't believe that this actually mattered to the company. I was never interested in just telling a story that wasn't true. And I've been skeptical since I started, and I'm happy to say that 4 years later, I've never been happier in my career and feel like I'm doing so much. So I just want to say thank you to Gilbane, and I look forward to telling you a little bit more about our work.
Thank you, John. And Tish, do you want to tell us about WTS and your work there?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Hello. So for myself, my name is Letitia Smith. I am the chair of the Business Diversity Committee of the Women's Transportation Seminar, also called WTS, if you don't know. It's a nonprofit organization that really wants to link women in transportation. However, we do like allies, so I don't want to put that out there. As far as the information that I like to pursue with small businesses is really to get their names and their faces out there to the primes. General contractors, certain businesses that may look for specific projects. We want you to be able to have your name and your faces known. What I'm getting from some of the information that I'm receiving from some primes, they're used to the same people they work with. Unfortunately, after COVID, some of those businesses have failed. They're no longer existing. So what we're actually doing in the committee is really pursuing getting everyone out there that constantly is trying their best to come to these type of events, and they want to learn as much as possible on how to network, how to get information out there as far as financing. That's another concern that I'm actually getting from some people. But with all of that information, I am very vigilant in order to link people together. As you can see, I have met some people here, I have your cards, so I will be making sure I keep in contact with you. And I hope to get a chance to see everyone else here well, I won't probably get to see all of you, but I want to make sure I can get to at least get some of you, if you don't have my information, so that I can share it with some of the firms or that some people have actually reached out to me about. Okay?
Thank you, Letitia, my kind of girl. She's getting out there. Wayne Lambert, tell me what's going on at Turner & Townsend.
Sure. Thank you, Tanya, and good afternoon, everyone. That'd be great to be here. Wayne Lambert, head of supply diversity for Turner & Townsend. We're a global project management firm. Obviously, we have a wide footprint. We are partners with the firm known as CBRE. Some of you may be familiar with that large firm. And again, another firm who also has a global footprint. My role is primarily in the U.S. Market, and we look to bring projects to life. And part of that is ensuring that we are inclusive, right? We make sure that we tap into communities, tap into the resources within the communities, which means you all here in this room, right? And the ABEs and or XBEs, right, depending on the location. But we want to make sure that we're inclusive across the board, right? That permeates from the top down. Leadership definitely stresses that through our purpose, values, and vision, and that stresses through contracting. And my role is a new role with the company. I've been with the company for 8 months. Prior to that, I came from the city side. I've been with the public sector, and I still wear that civil service hat, as I often like to say. For the greater part of 15 years, I worked with Tanya Pope in the Department of Small Business Services, where I started as a certification analyst, certified a few folks in this room. Not enough if you could believe that. Did some work at the Department of Health, Mental Hygiene, helped to stand up a supply diversity program there, worked with the Mayor's Office of ABE for a period of time, and also was the Chief Diversity Officer for New York City's Department of Design and Construction. Before coming over to the private sector side, where I'm carrying all that knowledge, all those companies that I met over time with me, right, in that fight, right? I call it a fight because it is a fight in many ways, but we're optimistic because things have changed, right? We're going to talk about some of the challenges and how we tackle that today, but definitely happy to be here with this amazing panel.
Thank you, Wayne. And Wayne, that's the power of networking, because I've been out of the city for 12 years? I don't know nobody there anymore. I'm like, Wayne, who's at the top of this? And so he's my go-to. I always call him when I need to know who's the current commissioner of this agency. And Wayne knows it all. Tell us about what you're doing with your company.
Well, hello. My name is Khalid David. I'm the founder and CEO here at TrackFlow. TrackFlow is a software solution that helps contractors manage project costs. And the reason I'm here today is really about the work that I've been doing to help MBE's capacity building. We're one of the few technology providers that are certified MBE, and what that has afforded us is the ability to kind of to make sure that when we think about MBEs, we're not just thinking about contracting, but we're also thinking about, are we a part of the conversation of the future of the industry? When you think of MBEs, are we also thinking about what's next for the industry and how do we continue to position ourselves? I've made a name for myself in a short period of time. 2 of our major projects that we've been able to participate on is 66 Hudson and Spiral and Hudson Yards. And now I'm glad to announce that our software is being used on 270 Park Avenue, the JP Morgan job. And that's something that we're very proud of, but at the same time, what we're discovering is that technology is becoming a great equalizer. Some of the largest, most competitive firms are adapting technology because COVID changed everything. And my commitment is to make sure that MBEs don't get left in that process. So my job, I'm your resident tech guy. Everyone has like your nephew or your niece that you ask to help. You know what I'm saying? That's my job for MBEs. What are the technology solutions that you're going to need to stay competitive and to continue to compete in this post-COVID construction market?
Thank you. So I've got a few questions for our panelists here, but I'm not going to take up all the time, and I'm going to give you all time to ask your questions. So let's get started. And this first question, I really want to position to John and to Wayne. Tell me about your supplier diversity program. What certifications do you accept? What are your goals, and what are you truly trying to achieve through your program? Either one of you can go first.
Do we go first? I was hoping to build on what you were going to say. so at Gilbane, we have an across-the-board goal for all of our projects. Because to me, if we're just doing this when the public sector tells us to do it, we don't really care about it, right? So that integrity of bringing this to all of our projects is important. So we have a 20% across-the-board goal. Does that mean we hit 20% on every project? Absolutely not. But it means we try, and I make sure that project teams try, right? So there's that 20% goal. We also have a $4 billion with a B dollar commitment to MWBEs over the next 5 years. So we're 1 year into that, and I'm happy to say we're 25% of the way there, rather than 20% of the way there. So we're ahead of schedule in meeting that $5 billion commitment. And to me, that tells us that, you know, like, we do a lot more than that, because we're starting to put things into place, and we're already seeing this kind of progress. It's like, we just need to build the infrastructure, and then there's so much that's possible, right? So, you know, with supplier diversity, I'll just say, you know, we have these goals that are across the board. We try to prioritize Black and brown businesses, because if we look at our numbers more closely, we might be able to say we're doing 25% as a company, but if you look under the hood, a lot of our Black businesses well represented? No. So we try to approach our economic inclusion work through the lens of, is this the spirit of what we're trying to do here? We're not just trying to hit numbers, right? Numbers are important because they tell us how we're doing, but if we're gaming the system, if we're just getting those high numbers so that we can sell work, like, that's not what I'm interested in, and that's not what we're interested in. So we really want to be more than just driving numbers. We want to be driving impact, and that, to me, entails constantly asking how we can improve our program to make sure that we're driving impact in the communities in which we're building, because it's not okay to build in the Bronx and use no Bronx-based firms, for example, right? So that's just a taste of how we approach economic inclusion. We call it economic inclusion at Wayne, and I'll turn it over to Wayne to tell you.
Sure, thank you, John. And similarly, again, there's so much in this world, right? And I'll give a taste as well. As noted earlier, my role is a new role with Turner & Townsend, and it speaks to the fact that the company realized the importance of having this role and putting their money where their mouth is, right? You have these great posts on the website. DE&I is important to us, but do you actually have resources to support it? So I'm part of that resource and building out a team here, but also in building out that infrastructure, right? It's also educating folks within the company, right? A lot of folks be like, believe it or not, we don't know what supplier diversity is, if you can believe that even up to this day, right? And that's not just at Turner & Townsend, that's at any firm out there. I have a conversation, they have to, okay, what is supplier diversity? Is it just giving a contract to a Black-owned firm, right? It's a lot more than that, right? So it's helping folks at the company understand that this program is an economic development program, right? It's to create opportunities for small businesses, XBE firms, but it's to make sure that, that permeates to, I mentioned communities earlier, right? Those companies hire those companies. So making sure that message is clear across the board. We're not just trying to check a box, right? And the leadership is right behind me when I'm sharing that message, which is great, right? It gives me the confidence, and I can, sort of spread my wings a bit within the firm. We don't have a formal goals program at the moment. We haven't set goals, but we pursue contracts in the public and private sector where we may have to incorporate goals. There was a project in Denver. The city of Denver put a goal of 20%, right? We came in and said, okay, there's availability here, right? Why do we have to go only go for 20%? So we wowed them. We said, okay, we're gonna go for 37%, right? And right now we're at 25% of that project, and we're at 38% utilization thus far. So I can use that now as a case study and show other folks within the company that this can be successful. We can get this project done successfully and be inclusive at the same time. So there's more to come on this side. We're thinking about mentorship, capacity building. All of that is happening as we speak. So it's like building a plane and flying it at the same time, because there's so much, right, that's happening right now. I don't want to miss out on it, but we also have to do a lot to help folks catch up and be at the right, be on the same page when it comes to supply diversity. So there's more to come. Right, stay tuned, check the website out, we'll have conversations today, but definitely more to come, and these programs are growing on the public sector side and in the private sector as well.
In another lifetime, I worked for United Airlines, and that building the plane and flying it at the same time is the scariest metaphor I've ever heard. I want to just commend you both. One, I know that when a company starts to put resources into supplier diversity, they begin to understand how it's part of their revenue plan and what it gets them with their customers. And I applaud Turner and Townsend for beginning that path, and especially with you. John, the whole idea of goals, I love goals because it lets folks know who are coming to work for us, watching you. Just knowing that there's a goal there, they're like, okay, we better watch this, we better be careful, we better make sure we do this, because it means something, and we are going to enforce it. And so for that reason, that's why I prefer that companies set goals, so folks know you're serious. Thank you both. Letitia and Khalid, I have a question for you. You both work around building up the firms, the diverse firms. And so I'm often asked in my role, because you know, people at Columbia think like, well, what's the business case for using diverse firms? Tell me the value of using diverse firms in projects, and whether it's a value for the GC, the CM, the firm itself, or just the entire ecosystem of construction. I want to hear what that is.
As far as the businesses that we've actually encountered when it comes to general contractors or primes, their input on what that actual project can do for the community, for the whole environment, whatever it is as far as their capability statement, what they can add as far as value in economy, in any type of money that you actually need for any type of project. In order for you to gain that insight, you actually have to speak to these small businesses. You have to understand, how did they actually come to become this small business? Not just checking a box as far as what type of percentage you need for your particular project, or what type of information you need to gather from these small businesses. They really need to know who these small businesses are. Some of the people that I've talked to before we even started this panel, it's fascinating to see how they actually began and what they can add to some of these projects. Unless you come to these type of events, these networking events, you're not going to know who these small businesses are, what they represent, how they can actually support your project, how they can add to your team, unless you talk to them. You have to speak to them, you have to network, you have to link. A lot of this information that can be provided is very important, because if you're not going to be able to see their value, then now you're not really bringing any type of economic value in some of these projects or businesses.
So to me, this is a very somewhat personal. So I fundamentally believe that job creation in communities of color is a form of activism. That economic opportunity is the great equalizer in a capitalist society. And that when you actually give or create opportunities to work for these minority businesses, you're giving people dignity, you're giving people pride, but you're giving them the economic engines to get out of poverty, to create jobs in their own community. And this work is not simply dollars and cents. These are hearts and minds. And as our nation and the city becomes increasingly more and more diverse, it is our responsibility to make sure that the firms of the future can deal with the workforce of the future. So we're not, for us, when we help, those two brothers who started as tradesmen, who got a few contracts, and now they're seeing big deals, and none of them had a degree. None of them went to engineering school. And we help them organize their books so that they can do what they do best, and at the same time, provide the level of expertise in reporting that Gilbane and Turner and Townsend needs, right? We're empowering that generation to continue to grow their business. America is a nation of family business. And these companies are families. It's aunties and uncles, and those generations need like those first leaders, those G1s. So I started my career at Turner, and we all learned the story of Henry Turner. Gilbane is still a family-owned business. These great enterprises started with families. And our job is to make sure that those families have the ability to change their communities. And that's what it means to work with an MBE. That's what it means. And to me, it's more than just work. It's the opportunity to advance. And that's ultimately what we're fighting for. And it's fundamentally necessary to stay competitive as our cities become increasingly more diverse. We need to make sure that the Latino community, the Black community, the immigrant community, that they have the capacity to handle the work over the next 50 years, because these cities will continue to be more and more diverse, and we need to have those players there.
I think they make the business case. I wanted to mention that at Columbia, we have a 35% MWL spend goal. Our goal is that 35% of all the dollars that go into our projects are spent with minority, women, or local companies. And local for us are the 17 zip codes north of 96th Street, river to river, and the 4 southernmost zip codes in the Bronx. We have to make sure that the businesses in those areas where we're located grow as we're growing. So they get the same preferential treatment as if they were a minority certified or woman certified company. But for our projects over $1 million, and there are a lot, we have a 40% workforce goal. That means 40% of the people or more who are working on the contract that you get, Gilbane, have to be minority or women or have to live in the local community. Because we understand that minority women firms help the folks who work for them, but being a family member, working on a good paying job, often a union job, builds lives, sends kids to college, allows you to buy a home, and it increases the prosperity in our communities, and it's important. So I'm glad that we all understand the investment that we have to make in that. My next question, here go those glasses again, is for everybody. I'm going to ask everybody. I want to hear you talk about some of your MWBE, MWLBE success stories. I have 2 short ones that I want to talk about. My first one is the one that stays with me always, is when I was working for SBS in the city. I used to teach this class called I'm Certified Now What? Okay, I got this piece of paper. What am I supposed to do now? Wayne and I both taught that class. And this young lady came in, and I would ask everybody their business to get a sense of how I wanted to position the class. And she said, oh, I'm a master hairstylist. And so there were 2 things that the city wasn't really buying a lot of: hairdos and bodega contracts, okay? And I was like, oh Lord. I was like, I don't like to give anybody a false sense of things. You're probably not gonna be successful in government contracting. I don't know if this is a good thing for you. She goes, no, I'm serious, I'm absolutely. She went on to get 2 contracts with senior homes to do hair for the ladies. And I said, okay, I'm out of the business of telling people they can't do that. That ain't my business. You want to learn how to do this, you come on in. Just recently in my Columbia life, we had a unfortunate experience, and this person is in the room and he knows it brings me to tears when I talk about this, where we had to pull a contractor off a job because we found out that they had several cases of wage theft. And that's not who we are. We're not going to work with you. If I know that about you, you can't work for me. And we were scurrying around to say, who can pick up this job? And I happened to be at a networking event like this, and I happened to walk up to that quality wet paint, and I said, can you do a $200,000 job and start like next week? And Bernardo said, yeah. And he did. And that's all about the whole thing. You never know when success is going to come, so you can't get ready. You got to be ready in the moment. So John, I'm going to go with Khalid, you want to start?
Let me think. MVP success stories.
You want somebody else to start?
Yeah, it's
You are successful.
Right? There you go. We're sitting right beside you. But I'm going to go back to to my SBS days as well, and one of, in my earlier, like literally my third or fourth month at the agency, and one of the things that sort of inspired me to continue doing this work today, I was up in Albany and came across a firm trying to convince this firm to get certified. Just that time, younger, I should say, fresh out of college, and really just excited, just talk about this program. I think you can benefit from getting certified. Now, all the paperwork, all the items in the conversation like it was yesterday. And I said, no, come over to our table, we'll talk. This company ended up getting certified, right? What's the name of the firm? Events by us. I'm gonna forget the name, but Angelique Reed is the owner of the company, I forgot her name. And she ended up winning a contract with Small Business Services to run the city's procurement fair, right? So she went from not wanting to get certified to getting certified and getting contract opportunities because of that. And that to me just, that gets us earlier in my career. I'm like, okay, I can actually make a difference, right? So I, really, to the point when you meet a company who's like, no, you want to convince them, you want to, sell the program, but there is actual real value to getting certified, and really just making sure that companies understand that it's important. I'll share another quick one with my private sector, my short private sector career. We went after a large project, but there was a firm up in Buffalo, a smaller firm, MWBE firm, minority woman-owned firm. I've done a number of projects, and I looked at the history, and they were, sort of accelerating, increasing rather in size. Call the firm, I don't think this job is big enough for us, and I had said, no, that's not the answer I'm expecting right now, right? You've done X, Y, Z work, right? You shared your capability statement. Is this false information in your capability statement? No, I've done it, so you can do this project, right? Company got excited. Again, we put them in the fold on the pursuit, so they got the experience of working with attorney accountants that they never have worked with before. And talk about the business case in the previous question. This company called us a few months ago. They attended this town hall meeting up in Buffalo, and we were able to attend. And they go, attorney accountants, would you guys be willing to pursue this project? It's a potential contract opportunity for us. So I now can go back to the senior PMs on the team and say, hey, this company is now bringing us potential opportunities, right? So this is why we need to work with these firms, these local firms, these MWBE firms. So those are my two. So that's the difference. I get excited about this.
I can see. I guess mine is twofold, and it would echo what both of you already said. Actually, at one of these events for WTS, I actually met someone from Tuck. And we actually had an info session, quarterly info session. And within that info session, there was one person that was a part of the committee that I co-chair, who decided to leave ACOM and create her own business. Not only did she get certified with Port Authority, she got certified with New York State. She's already working on some projects as of right now. Swans Engineering is her firm. And when I tell you, it was just a matter of months when she decided, just by listening and coming to these events and these information, this info session, pretty much what we're doing right now, providing info, she decided to just take that leap. She was already in the field, she was already an engineer. She just said, you know what, I can be a woman business enterprise, I can do it. I said, I'm with you, I'm behind you. If you want to do it, there were people that I could connect her with that were already a part of the committee. She was able to get the certification, the knowledge that she needs to do to fill out that capability statement correctly. And then be able to present her case, let others know what she can actually do. And she was already joining some projects, and I'm very proud of her because not only is she doing that, now she's actually helping others if they wish to do that too. So it's not as if she just figured out it on her own and now she wants to go and do her own thing. No, she's bringing others with her to say, if you want to do this, you can do it, and I'll show you how I did it, and it may work for you. And I think that's always bring somebody with you. Bring a buddy. Next time you come here, bring someone with you. Don't just bring yourself. I think that's very important.
I've been inspired by actually something everyone said. And Wayne, I forgot exactly how you put it, but you said something to the effect like we get to control, like we can have an impact here. Like, I think that's what really hit me when I left the city and started working at Gilbane. It's like, whoa, wait, all I have to do is recommend these firms, and they're gonna look at these firms, and they usually end up on the bid list. Like, that is such, that's a power that I do not take lightly. And it, like, the gatekeepers that we are, right? I take that very seriously, and I derive so much pleasure to be able to help people through that, right? Doesn't mean I answer every email. I'm sorry, you emailed me and I haven't responded. But, and I think it's important to share success stories because there's so many stories that are the opposite of success stories that everyone tells, right, without us asking them to. So it's important to talk about the positive, because there's so much positive, right? With that said, I'm not going to say success story, but I will say my version of the success story is this, right? So like, we have a lot of awards. We have a rising contractor program. We, train promising contractors. They get awards with Gilbane. We don't think that, we should pat ourselves on the back because we put through someone through a training program. We're not Harvard or Yale, right? We know that these contractors are taking their time out of their precious day to go through this because they want work. So we try to connect them to work as best as possible. It's a success story in that we've worked with in a lot of those rooms. But I will say this, there's a person who's very special to me here today, and I really coached her on starting her own business. So her name is Farah this year. She started creative form development, and she's a Seattle firm, right? And so she's trying to make it in the city. And I think it's such a beautiful thing. And she's doing all the things, and she got her first contract. And so to me, that's a success story. Someone who took that leap and said, Gilbane was great, but this gave me the confidence that I need to go and start my own thing and be successful, and maybe compete with Gilbane one day. And I hope she does. So I just want to, is Barrett here? Just want to, is she here? She's not here. She was. She was here? Wow. Oh. Forget everything I just said. Is someone videoing that? It's going to feel real bad.
I'll email it to her tomorrow.
So, after some thinking, I will say, not me, but the Tri-Field team is in the room tonight. With Sharky, AJ, Felisa, you guys mind standing up a little bit, just to show yourselves. If you look at that team, our team is intentionally diverse. When we started as a pure technology play, and as we kind of got more and more, people told us, hey, have you considered MBE? Because you are in position to become a certified MBE. And that certification has not only created new opportunities for us and allowed us to build a company as diverse as the city that we serve, but it brought me into the process that these MBEs have to go through. And the registration and how many times you gotta send your tax returns in and all the logistics and then once you get it, now what? But it endeared me to the MBE process, to what it takes to go out and get work. What it did, ultimately what we decided was that for any certified MBE firm, we offer our software at a reduced price. But it was going through the process of what it's like to have this certification that really made that commitment cemented in us. So sometimes it's hard for me to think as Tri-Field as an MBE success story, but I know that I'm going to do my job to make sure that we're part of the conversation on technology and its future, and we're not only building capacity, that we're represented at every part of that conversation. And that's something I can say I'm so proud of.
We're pretty proud of you too. It's almost time for me to have these folks take all of your tough questions. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about some of the capacity for building programs that we are all working on and that are available to you. Guys, you're going to have a hard time believing this, but I met a firm here tonight who has never been through a capacity building program. I know people who've been through 7 or 8 of them. And so there are still people who need our help. I'm going to talk to you about my CU Grow program. It's an 11-month program that we run out of Columbia. We take 20 firms a year from the built environment. We assign you a dedicated coach. You are invited to exclusive procurement events with our project managers to hear about the work they've got coming through the pipeline. You are required to do a 3-year growth plan, and at the end of your graduation, you are made a vendor of Columbia, and last year we were actually able to give all those vendors task order contracts. I'm also part of Ascend New York City, as is Gilbay, as is Turner & Townsend, as is Tishman Speyer. Mr. Darian Pinkman out there? And we are all working very hard to come together to provide opportunities for firms in the New York region and with Turner & Townsend and Pinkman across the US and globally. I'm going to give John 2 minutes to talk about his program, and then we're going to answer your questions.
So the Rising Contractor Program is an 8-week training program. We actually just hired a program director. So at first I was doing it as part of my job. But now we have someone fully dedicated to the program. It'll be starting in mid-April. If you're interested in applying for that program and you're a contractor, it's just for trade contractors, not for professional services firms. So just talk to me or Google Gilbay Rising Contractors. The link to the application is active. And the thing that I think differentiates our program is after the 8 weeks of training, you get qualified with Gilbay, you get mentored. You get a match with a Gilbay mentor. And that mentor's role is really to help you get a job over the next, hopefully less than a year, but the mentorship lasts a year. So I highly encourage you to apply for the program.
Okay, the last thing I'm going to say is we awarded $123 million in contracts to our CEO firms in the last 7 years that it's been in place. Enough about me again. I want to hear your questions. What do you all want to know from these? Yeah, let's go.
All right, I'll be the first one.
Be the first.
I don't need a mic. Is that all right? Sorry. Juan Martinez from Moscow Services here. Thank you so much, each one of you guys, for everything that you're doing and opening up doors for minority business owners like us, right? My question is for you, sir. The technology now. I'm in the technology space. In a world where technology is really changing the future, everything is really getting, you really need technology behind you. Businesses need it, you know. You need integration. What advice would you have for us as a technology company? How do we break down these barriers? How do we get inside the room? Because we're not the first thing that people think about, right? But we're the people behind the doors that are making sure that your organization is running 24/7, that you're protected, nobody's stealing your information, right? So, my question for you, I know it's a loaded question.
That's a tough one. So one thing that I had to wrestle with, and it took me a while. I was, when you say MBE firm, people don't think technology. They just don't. They absolutely trade contractors, but for the most part, the general psyche is that MBE firms need so much or are somewhat behind that there's no space in tech. Like, what are they doing there? They should be getting some carpentry work done. And I grew up in a family of carpenters. I grew up with a union dad, so I love the trades. So I think what I've come to accept is that oftentimes I have to lead with the value that we add, purely from just what we can do, and by the way, we have to be certified MBE. And it's I don't call it a harsh reality, but it's really how you. I've gotten more when I say MBE and I say technology, it kind of like messes people's brain up. But if I say here, we're a technology provider, this is what we do, this is the project we work on, this and that, whatever, boom, boom, and we get close to the contract, so you can also qualify for MBE. You're like, oh, great, you know, like, and and I don't think it's unfortunate. I think it's that to truly, ideally, right, you do all this MBE work so that you get to a certain point in the future where you qualify out. Right? And when you qualify out, then you would have to have years of experience of leading with your value. So I think that at its core, it's forcing you to rest on what you deliver. And by the way, you can also get points for MBE because they're not, the general psyche is not going to be technology and MBE goals. That doesn't really match in most people's mind. But it gives us a unique opportunity to bring our full selves to these conversations and have them wrestle with the, oh, okay, And that's the work, really.
So what I just heard was lead with your skills and abilities, and cherry on top of the end. Okay, question.
This question is, I think, primarily for John, but anybody please feel free to weigh in, and hopefully others will
And if you can speak as loudly as you can, so we
Yes,
can go in the back.
I will speak very loudly. So would you recommend that we go through this sort of normal vendor pre-qualification process in order to get visibility with GCs? Because sometimes we're a little bit small, we're sort of like a sub to the landscape contractor. And when I start to do the process, it's asking me for OSHA logs and safety manuals, and should I invest the time in doing all that stuff? Or should I just try to say, hey, that stuff doesn't really apply to us, but then the application kind of stops?
That's a really good question. And I wish I had a better answer, right? Because the truth is that they're like boxes, right? And that's a box. Like we wouldn't hire you directly. Maybe we would, right? So the thing is, like, for example, if you went through the Rising Contractor Program, one thing that we do often is when we're designing bid packages, we think, well, who are our rising contractors and what do they do? Can we break that out of this package so they have something they can be competitive on? Or if they're a carpentry contractor with the carpentry package is $5 million, like maybe we'll break it out into two so that they can compete. That doesn't answer your question fully. Like, I'll say that it is good for us to still get like pre-qualified through our system. I will say internally, just, you know, I have a fight with purchasing sometimes because I'm like, listen, our systems ask for a million things, right? We need a two-step process where we let a firm just submit basic information that can give us 90% with 90% accuracy, the likelihood of their being able to get pre-qualified. Because the worst thing is if we request a million documents from you, you submit everything, and then you know hear from us again, right? That's really bad, right? Because not only are we not giving you work or opportunities, we're taxing you. We're taking more of your bandwidth that we know you don't have, right? So it's a big pet peeve of mine. So I appreciate your question, and I do wish I had a better answer, except that make use of us, because we're getting there. We've made so much progress, like in a little time, but we have ways to go, and you're hitting on something that's important. So, but again, we're gatekeepers. And I think do you have a question?
I just want to add really quickly that even if you're not sure that you may make it through the pre-qual process, find the Johns.
That's what
Find the economic inclusion.
She's also with Gilbane.
Yeah, she's with
one message.
She's the photo blogger. Yeah, being Wayne too. I mean, yeah, I think they use. That's why, frankly, that's why these kinds of events are good, because this is the way to do it, right? So,
Thank you.
yeah.
And I'll just add one tidbit. Every firm is going to have their own, right? Because many of us are competitors. We're competing for the same. So we're going to have different systems. We're not in the same system. So unfortunately, they are what sort of RFI process for us at Turner & Townsend, because it helps us to get the information that I know project managers are asking in advance, and helps to clear some of those hurdles, right? Because we know that there are times the PMs, they're focused on getting that project. They're not necessarily thinking firsthand, MAB or what have you. So that's where I come in, right? And I say, hey, we have firms who can do X, Y, Z work, but I need to make sure I have the information in advance to share back. I can't just say, hey, I know it's a great firm. They're not going to go off of that alone. They're going to see something, something tangible behind that in the form of information. So I would say yes, fill out, but definitely contact those, the Johns and Waynes and others at the companies and say, hey, do I need to submit this information or what have you. For Turner & Townsend, our just USA Supplier Diversity at turntown.com. That's also XPE line. So if you want to access any questions, you can. USA Supplier Diversity at turntown.com.
Go ahead, Sue. Are you asking a question, or I wanted to just put something else here before the next question got asked? I'll come to you right next. What I wanted to say to you is that, we got so tired of having this conversation. I can't find any WBEs in this category. So what we started doing is we have a 14 trade list that we send out with every RFP, not contract, RFP. Because you have to tell me how you're going to make your 35% to get the contract. I don't wanna have these conversations anymore. I know they're out there. Here's a list that have worked with us successfully in the past. Call them up. Put them on your bid list. Get a price. And so we completely eliminated that conversation, but also made you visible to the larger contractors who are working in our portfolio. And we update that list every 6 months. So if you have a skill or a trade that we know of, that you've done work for people that are reputable, we will put you on that list because we want people to know you. They don't have to use you, but they have to meet the goal. So that's helped a bit.
And just to add on one quick thing to that is, so we're at a Tough Leaf event, right? So like, we haven't talked about Tough Leaf, but Tough Leaf could be the answer to that, right? So when you're talking about second tiers, that's a big thing, right? I don't directly contract with second tiers, so like, but we want to make sure, to Tanya's point, that our direct contractors are, and if we have that ready audience, you know, that ready population of firms that can work at that second tier, then that's a big, you know, value add of a business like Tough Leaf, so.
Thank you for that, John. But yeah, basically, that's kind of what we're trying to get done here. So we're working with a lot of the subcontractors who come to Tough Leaf and say, well, now the general contractor is putting on us a percentage of MWPs that they want to do, right? Which is something a lot of contractors are doing. Now, a lot of the primes, when they're awarding like a $10 million contract to a sub, electrical, they ask them, well, I need a percentage of that to go to MWPs, and they don't have a diversity department. And that's what we try to have happen at Tough Leaf, is connect these subcontractors with the second tier minority women-owned subcontractors. So if any of you did not claim your profile yet on Tough Leaf, find us so we can make it happen.
She has a question.
We're gonna.
I want to make a comment on Tough Leaf.
Oh, go ahead.
When I was part of the program, the Columbia Development Program, I got hired before graduating. You also went and presented the same date that I asked for work. And of course, I registered the next day with Tough Leaf, and he has offered, Tough Leaf has connected me with JRM. I was actually at a network event 2 weeks ago, and another company. I submitted a bid for JRM already, and it was because of Tough Leaf. Also, he referred for another payroll agency, which I.
Casey's right there.
Again, I made a switch from the previous payroll to someone who Tough Leaf recommended.
So the network ecosystem is working here. Simone has a question, and I absolutely will not hear anybody else until she asks her question. Ms. Peel.
Yes, hi. Gilbane, I was at your office in 2016, 2017. I met with you and the president of your company at 2 Water Street, I think.
88 Pine.
88 Pine, right. And I just wanted to ask how, I know at that time it wasn't really like it is now. So I wanted to ask you if I could come back to your office for another interview and another introduction, because I can do CMU, concrete, masonry, and I just wanted to know if what you're saying about your inclusiveness is really on the up and up, because I've been to some of your jobs and I've seen how people are working there, and I've seen the, not really representative of the community, diverse community, get ready to do a job in Far Rockaway right now, and it's at the beginning, it's at the first stages, and I just wanted to know if I could talk to you guys about getting on that job, because I have 30 years of experience. I have tons and tons of people behind me who can design, build, you know, do whatever you want. And I just wanted to know if we could reconnect. And, 'cause
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I'll just say this, like, absolutely. I will be the first.
I know you were looking at me like, I've seen you before.
No, I know what you're saying. Here's the bit of advice I'll give, right? So I'll be the first to admit we all have growing to do, right? And that goes for the city as well. That goes for public jobs as well, right? So you look at the city can say they're doing 30%. You look under the hood and you'll see something else, okay? Now you're talking about workforce and work sites, that's the next frontier, right? Making sure that they're diverse. That is
You know, you
something
gotta
that
have
we need to do
contractors
better.
on here who represent the community, not only the workers.
Okay, no, I'm just saying you're talking about a work site.
Yeah.
So yes, I will definitely meet with you. I'm happy to do that, but I will say one thing. If you want, I just said we're gatekeepers, right? You know how many MWBs are in the city, right? We want to help as many people as possible, and I don't want to help the firms that are not going to put in the work, right? So we gotta, like in our positions, we have to make that decision all the time. I have to think with rising contractors. This rising contractor, should they remain a rising contractor because they're not responding to it? Let me just finish. So I'm just saying, I absolutely meet with you and I want to get you work with Gilbane, right? But I think the thing to do is if you're reaching out to somebody like me, understand that they have 1,010 emails, right? So to cut through it and don't, I will say, don't be afraid to nag me, right? Especially if I forgot you. I will say sorry, and I will mean it. But grabbing 15 minutes on someone's calendar is much more effective or much more likely to happen than say, I have people who say, I want to meet with you in person for an hour, and I'm like, I'm sorry, like, I think you want to see my calendar, like, I can't make that happen. But we can do quick introductory meetings so that I know exactly what you do, I can get a sense of you, and we can figure out how to go from there. So that's not for you directly. I'm using it to make a larger point so that, you know, we have a takeaway from that, but absolutely, I know.
I just thought that maybe it was because I was up and coming in what I was trying to do. And I feel like I'm one of the few African American female-owned companies that does foundation work, that does CMU, that does concrete. And that was why I thought that you guys never got back in touch with me.
I want to say that Simone is a graduate of CU Grove from some years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I tell people, we don't have an alumni program. CU Grove is like the mafia. You can get in, you can't get out. So we're working with Simone right now, even though she graduated 4 or 5 years ago, to help her restructure and redesign all of her marketing and collateral. And we're hoping that's going to be able to tell her story more clearly, and people will be more receptive, and hopefully that'll open some doors. So we're looking forward to that work, Simone.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Karina. I will try to speak my loudest, but this is usually as loud as I can go. I am with NJ Steel Group. We're a small company doing structural steel and ornamental steel work. And my question is regarding your programs that you've mentioned here with CU Work and Rising Contractors and Ascend. Are these open to just firms based in New York City, or are people who, like us, who are based in New Jersey, but we have the certifications and we've had them for years, but we are like,
Barbara Roberts put you up to asking that question, didn't she? Barbara, can you say this over the mic, because I want to make sure that people can hear you. Barbara put you up to ask me that question. You might have to step up a little bit, Barbara.
thank you.
Yes.
There's so much around the city and everywhere, but Ascend does run a program out of Newark, New Jersey, so just Google Ascend Newark, and I actually run Ascend Long Island, so if any of you are based on Long Island, we also have a Hofstra University run a great program for working with home businesses on Long Island. I also work with Columbia and a lot of other things.
You don't have to be based in New York City. And we like it, but if you're certified. And we also have a New Jersey office, by the way, so. Yeah.
Thank you.
certification. We're certified in New Jersey, and we got a few projects in New York, but since there's many agencies like MTA, New York, New Jersey Transit, New Jersey Transit by itself, they have their own MWBE program. And I was just wondering why we need to apply to so many entities.
I'll take that one. We tried. It didn't work. Government doesn't like it. So we tried convincing the different state, city agencies of trying to do something more uniform. The only uniform program there is the DBE unified under one state. But the thing we do at Tough Leaf now, instead of you having to go to 10 different databases to find out where your company is certified, just go to one profile on Tough Leaf and we'll have all the certifications in one place. So that allows diverse firms that are certified in many states. Thank you. Many states, many cities to showcase that they're certified in other places, and contractors, developers, when they're looking for a specific company with multiple certifications, they can find them in one place. But we spoke to a lot of different organizations, a lot of different public agencies to ask that question, and the response is it's never going to change. So hopefully it will at some point.
So maybe there's some expediting, like if you do have one, why not expedite the application or something that we're trying to apply for New York, right?
Here's an answer to that.
So I can, I'll add some clarity there. So when it comes to the programs, whether it's private or public, in New York City, for example, there is what's known as reciprocity. And if you're certified with the state, you can go to an expedited process to get certified with the city. Same thing with SCA, MTA, even with NMSDC, the National Moderator Supply Development Council, and WeBank, the Women's Business Entrepreneur National Committee. I think I got that right. All of those, right? There's reciprocity with New York City to make the process easier. Right, so you can literally get certified in a week with New York City, right? If you're certified with one of those entities. One quick point, right? Last week, for example, there was the Black Hispanic Asian Caucus in Albany, right? It's important for you all to be tied to those, those sort of public sector avenues and those networks, because today's lobby day in Albany, right? Granted, Tough Leaf events day, praise it, of course. You said. But definitely it's lobby day, and there are MWBEs up there lobbying on behalf of MWBEs, and that topic that you brought up came up on so many different sessions up there, the certification process. So it is something that's on the agenda, but we need to lobby and make sure that we're pushing the public, the advocates, and the city officials to fight for these tools for us, right? Make life easier for us.
Is there an application for that?
Yes, with New York City in particular, if you contact Small Business Services, they can probably connect you directly to those different organizations and help you with the certification.
And they can tell you how it works. I will say that at Columbia, all those certificates you named, all 14 of them, all you need is one to come and work for us. You don't need all of them. So start with the city, because that's the fastest. I'm just going to say, you'll be years looking for the state. I don't know who said that. Start with the city, and it has the reciprocity, and it'll get you on the jobs.
Thank you.
We also work with a company called Apex Accelerators, and they're funded by the federal government to help you go through the application process. So if you need a connection to them, just talk to me, and I'll shoot over an info email, and they'll help you, and it's also free of charge.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments, thoughts?
So just on the reciprocity, there is reciprocity in New York. If you get certified, say with SBS, you then can get certified with the Port Authority and the School Construction Authority. But there are certain documents in addition to what you supply to SBS that you're going to have to supply to them as well. I'm happy to talk to you after. And there is reciprocity in New Jersey as well, because I am applying for New Jersey, and it's actually.
Can you just quickly tell people what your consulting business provides, the services, just so you know why she knows all this?
Well, I don't do it, but I've actually worked for the city of New York for 15 plus years, and so I know a lot of the regulatory requirements. So, and I consult on various things.
And really quick,
She knows where the rocks are buried.
just really quick, New Jersey firms, please, make your business and give me your card before we leave. That's just one big project out there, so it might be some work, right?
Hello everyone, I'm John Finnemore from EW Hall Construction Group. Firstly, thank you so much, all of you. The passion, the commitment, reads very clear. And it's a challenge, there's no question. We're a 132-year-old firm, we're a general contractor, construction manager, very engaged in the territory. And we're challenged, and we're trying to change that game by bringing more minority firms to our firm. We have our own diversity department internally. We hooked up with Khalid recently. They've been instrumental in its early stages with us. So, every one of these people here speak with a lot of passion because it's a very important thing. The economic strata, the machine, it's more than just a box. Yes, we have to check off a box. Yes, you have to be certified. Yes, you have to perform. Those are the underlying, no doubt. But there is a bigger mission at stake. And one of the things as Director of Business Development at Howell, it's not only finding new clients, but it's also finding new subcontractors and bringing them into the fold. We're a real deal company. It's not just a showcase for me, but at the end of the day, Khalid is really demonstrated. I ran into Whistle maybe about 3-4 years ago at the National Association of Minority Contractors, New York chapter, and he had a vision, and he that's the outbreak, that vision. Now that vision is manifesting itself, and it's real, and we're tapping into it. It's early for us. So I commend every one of you people. Fantastic job, and we're excited, but we have a lot of work to do at our company. We have a lot of work to do. But we'll get there. 132 years, I think we'll make it a couple more. Thanks so much.
Other questions, comments? Yes.
I will start with apologies for my accent. I'm Ukrainian immigrant, and I just became a government vendor, and thank you, PTAC, they introduced me for TopLeap. I'm here to ask the most important question for me to start. I have all certification. I invest my time, money for all these papers, but how to start work? How to become a vendor? Without portfolio, without any experience to work with government, without being anyone, not general contractor, subcontractor. I didn't have even one penny contract with government, with city. And nobody can talk to me because nobody knows me. I have no portfolio. So how to start? What to do to make a first step?
Do they still do, I'm certified now what? That is a class that you need to study.
Yes, totally. So small business services, they have a class. I'm certified, it's actually known as a selling to government now.
Okay.
That's the government. So they talk about how to pursue opportunities in the federal, state and city, on city level as well. So I think that's a good place to start. I know we're trying to get away from MDBs solely as subcontractors, but if you don't have any experience in government public, you probably have to try to get into the subcontracting angle, right? So finding firms, the selling to government course, they talk about how to identify the contracts. But so with New York City, for example, you identify a contract, you can see the winning contractor. So if you type in painting, you can see all the painting contracts that have come up between a certain period of time and the winning primes, right? That's an avenue to say, okay, you might see Gilbane's name, right? Let me contact Gilbane and try to, you do have to do some research and digging, but it can get you to a point person to at least have the conversation and the networking events too. You have to go to these events, unfortunately, or fortunately, and build those relationships so people trust you, right, and get comfortable working with you. Because they're not gonna just find you on the direct and say, hey, I want to just work with this firm. You still have to get to know and go through that process.
And if I were you, I would make sure that every single person in this room knew what I did before they walked out of here tonight, because that's the important thing, getting the name of your firm in other people's mouths so they'll remember and say, hey, what's your name?
Marina.
What about Marina? This looks like something she can do. So we're trying to build that ecosystem, and we've got them all here, but you've got to do the work in this room. Make sure they know who you are, okay? Before I answer your questions, or have you ask your questions, Darian, do you want to just say a few words? Because you guys are doing some amazing stuff at Tish Inspire. And I want these firms to know about some of the work that you're doing, and you're here tonight, so.
I don't think I can say no right now.
It's gonna be kind of hard at this point.
It's one big supply diversity family.
Yeah.
Absolutely, these are my guys. So good evening, everyone. Darian Pinkman. So I'm the Senior Director of Indirect Procurement and also lead supplier diversity for Tishman Spire. So I think everyone in the room knows who Tishman Spire is. So I started our supplier diversity firm maybe 3.5 to 4 years ago because I came from other industries like biopharma, high tech, telecommunications, automotive, where they've been doing this stuff for 50 years, right? And I show up here at Rock Center, and we don't have any MDEs, we don't have any women, we don't have very many small businesses, and I said to myself, at some point, this is going to become important to not only Rob, but also to our investors. Lo and behold, the thing happens with George Floyd. Next thing you know, everyone in the company is calling yours truly about what we're doing around supplier diversity and ERG. So it made me really popular in 5 years, which is fun, right? So one of our largest goals is to increase our spend by 15% year over year. So we're going to go from about 50 million when I started the program to 300 million at the end of 2024. And obviously we're doing a lot of work with the folks in the room. Like for example, with Khalid, he's going to be featured in our ERG report as a spotlight regarding the only black firm that's in the technology space that Tishman Spire does work with. So we're doing some really amazing things globally for our program, not only here in the US and each one of the major cities, in tier 2 cities, but also in Europe and Brazil. So before you guys leave, say hello. I do not have any cards, but I will get back to you. John doesn't get back to me, but I'll get back to you.
Thank you, Darian. And he and Wayne and John and I are really working hard to push all the firms in our private anchor council, Fordham University, Hofstra University, the New York Met, the New York Philharmonic, Lincoln Center. We're going into cultural spaces where MBEs haven't gotten contracts before, and we're saying, we want you to give these firms some opportunity. And so the discussions have begun. We'll keep you abreast of the results. I think there were some more questions out there. Yes? What the trick corner is.
Man, that's a great question. So obviously we're a technology provider. One thing that we've noticed, especially on the field, is adoption to trade contractors. So we're taking it a step further and we're launching a product called a Tech Tank. And it's pretty much a mobile on-site adoption training center. So remember I said I'm your nephew that you need when you need help with? Imagine like being in Shantytown, and as your teams or your guys continue to need digital tools to adopt, that we show up, after coffee break or after your toolbox talk, and we're able to help these guys adjust and go through being able to use those digital tools. And that comes from growing up in the trades, literally having to help my uncles at dinner table, and making sure that our commitment to technology and technology adoption is not just happening with the people on the panel, but also with the guys, the men and women who are out there every day and making sure they have the tools that they need. So your resident nephew here and the Tech Tank is an extension of that. So if you'd like to talk more about it, just catch us out there.
And I should note that was a public service announcement and a plan, but it's okay, because we want to talk ourselves up here. There's nothing wrong with that. Telling people what you do and how you do it. Go ahead.
My name is AJ McGrelly. I'm the supply chain manager for Transparent. We're one of the new offshore wind energy developers. And for those of you that don't know, offshore wind is kind of a new industry that's coming to New York. There are already several developers that have worked with NYSERDA to become energy providers for the state. We're one of the bidders that submitted recently to NYSERDA to hopefully be able to sell energy to the state. Now, this is a new branch of the energy sector that is budding, which is, I think, it's going to be very new for not just New York, but for the country as a whole, and specifically for diverse businesses. Now, construction and construction management, New York has been doing that forever. You from what I'm hearing, this is something that is the bread and butter. You guys know what you're doing when it comes to networking and coordinating with small businesses. For us though, and for many other developers, we're new kids on the block. And for a lot of us, we're foreign companies that are coming in. We're not New Yorkers. I'm from Long Island though, so relatively local. Do you have any advice about coming in as a new party and earning the trust of diverse businesses?
All right, so that's where we come in, right? That's where Tough Leaf comes in. So as you see here, there's 60, I think, the last we checked, diverse businesses, and that's because we've earned their trust. Because Tough Leaf has earned their trust because we are here trying to give them more work, trying to give them more projects, and try to connect them with service providers. The mistrust, and anyone here from the diverse businesses can correct me, is these diverse firms, they're on a lot of databases and they get, hundreds of different solicitations. A lot of times are for jobs that they can't perform or they're not capable of performing, they're too big for them, they're too small for them. So that's where we come in. And the businesses that work with us, all the diverse firms, we know exactly what type of work they perform, what's their scope that they're doing, how big of a project can they do, how small of a project can they do, if they're union certified, non-union certified, project label or agreement, if they have a bond or they don't have a bond. So when you come to us with a project, we know exactly who to target for them to get that job. So you're not wasting their time using their estimator's power, because they can't estimate 100 jobs. Right? I used to work for Dragados, Ristani, we could estimate hundreds of jobs a year. Small minority women-owned businesses, medium minority women-owned businesses, they can't estimate all of that much. So when you send them a solicitation, it needs to be really focused on something that they actually have a potential of winning. They're not 100% going to win, right? But they have the potential of winning. So that's where we come in and we source those jobs from you to the diverse businesses that we work with so that they can win more work. And then after they win the job, then they can connect with capacity building partners and then get more capacity as well. So that's my plug.
I do also, I want to commend that question because you're not just asking how do I find MWBs, you're asking how do I earn the trust of MWBs, and I think that's a really important distinction because there's a lot of cynicism in this space, and for good reason, right? Like, any MWB will tell you that they feel that they've been put on a bid list, right? Just to check a box, that they were never really going to give a shot, right? Why should they even bid on this? So I would just say some practices to follow is like when you create a bid list, don't put 20 firms on it, right? Like if you're trying to bid to small businesses, don't waste a firm's time by putting 20 businesses on that bid list, right? Curate that bid list, make sure they're qualified, make sure that whoever is the low bidder and the lowest qualified bidder or the best value bidder, that you intend to award them, right? So, and I think some of the ways that you can communicate that trust up front is by telling all bidders, we will give you bid feedback. If you do not win this bid, we will provide feedback to you that is constructive, that you can learn from, and how we can work better together in the future. And letting them know that going in, I think will give them more confidence in bidding your job. And so I think, and also letting them know, we are looking for MWBEs that do this type of work, not just blasting the whole directory of people cutting hair, to work on your project, right? So showing that it's targeted, that you're looking for that specific audience, I think makes people more likely to respond.
And if I may follow up on that, that was one of the first things I did when I got this job. I was managing a few very small scale procurements, and the feedback post-award to those that weren't awarded, people, even when I had to say, sorry, but you didn't receive it, were like, thank you for telling me why. And I found that
or even that they didn't win. Some people didn't never hear again.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
But additionally, this idea of course, the important thing I want to follow up on is what I am now applying. I guess that happens so often.
That's okay, but that feedback goes both ways because not only does the firm greatly appreciate it, and I know we don't have the bandwidth to do it. It takes a lot of time and energy, but it is an investment in your own procurement process because firms are going to learn some things. They're gonna learn, you know what, my cost structure isn't aligned with this company, so I'm not gonna bid to them anymore. So that's somebody you have off your bid list that you don't have to worry about not getting the bid. Or, oh, I now understand how you think, and I'm gonna work on that angle. So you've got a more competitive bidder. There is nothing bad that happens from feedback. Yeah.
And I now remember what I was gonna call.
Yeah.
Okay, he remembers now, and then we're gonna come to you.
So we're being told to utilize a lot of state resources when we're going to be going about procurements. Empire State Development, Office of General Services. They have things like the New York State Contract Reporter, where you can post like state contracts for MWPs or for SDVOBs. But it's pitched to us like it's a place to check the box. And I was wondering if that is an accurate assessment.
I think it's an accurate assessment. I think the way you find great MWPs are to create relationships with them. And we know the firms that perform best for us on our projects are those that have relationships and have firms that they've worked with that have performed and have a great vetting process for new firms. If they're telling you put it in the contract reporter, everybody who has that NAICS code is gonna get your procurement. And you're literally gonna have hundreds of people responding to you. When, is it really right for those hundreds of people?
Right.
Probably not.
And ultimately what people want is getting from the long list to the short list of the procurement.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's again to the same point, right? Like, you wanna just target the companies that can actually do the job and not waste the time of the companies that don't. And back to the point that we were talking about, that's something we're kind of suggesting to all the contractors that work with us. If a subcontractor, diverse firm submits to you more than 4 times and does not get selected on any of the jobs, we're offering them now through Tough Leaf or through the contractor that works with us a sit down for an hour to go through your bid and understand why you didn't get those past 4 jobs and what can you do in order to get the job the next time. Because there's nothing more frustrating than spending hours on bidding on jobs and then you're losing money, you're losing time, and you still not have a job. So that's like one thing that I would suggest. All the contractors in the room maybe consider, all the primes think about, and that's something we're enforcing with our contracts internally. And then for the diverse firms, eventually they'll figure out which contractors only try to check a box, right? And then they stop working with them, they stop submitting their bids to them. So it makes it a little harder for them to check the box, hopefully.
Can I say something here really quickly? We have started to study bid activity very closely. Because sometimes when we're not getting enough firms that are responding to opportunities, is it that they don't want to work with Columbia? Is it that they don't want to work with that GC? Did they get burned from that GC so nobody's applied? So we're not getting our work done? It really is hard to know, and it takes a lot of scrutiny and analysis. But we want to know, because if it's the GC, I don't want to hire him anymore. My job's not going to get done. So we look at the bidding activity very closely. Go ahead.
Just really quick, if you're bidding on public sector work, just know that city agencies must give you a debrief, right? So when you don't win, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They must, through the ACO office, must give you a debrief. Whether it's DDC or any other, I know I saw it earlier, but for example, DDC, for example, has a team that helps in that effort, on the ACO team and the BE team. So you must, if you take advantage of that and to get more
But when you
information.
say the other part, they're not sending out emails, do you want to debrief? You have to ask for it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you have to ask for it, and it's within your right, you will be able to get it from the city.
Yes.
Well, I guess we've worn you all out.
One more.
Yes, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
My name is Dana Wade. I'm a physician, and I own Manitoba. I'm the CEO of Manitoba Health, and Excellent Health. We are a preventative healthcare, and we are minority business certified year for 2 years. We also have zone. And my question is that I've been coming in search for, and most of the contract or the procurement is about technology and about construction. My question is that, is there any niche for preventative healthcare? What we do actually is provide employee wellness and health maintenance to prevent obesity, hypertension, and chronic diseases. And those are preventable chronic diseases that cause $320 billion every year in cost of healthcare. But do you have any advice where can I promote this service to have it? I mean, I have all the certifications that you can have, but yet I'm stuck here with.
Wayne, back in the old days.
So I was leading the supply diversity efforts at the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. So they're the agency that comes to mind. Also Health and Hospital Corporations, possibly Department of Corrections, right? Department of Youth and Community Development. But I will start with Department of Health and then the Health and H&H, Health and Hospitals. And you do have to go through the ACO, the agency chief contracting officer, or the MWB officer, because you pretty much want to submit a proposal, right? This is what I'm proposing would be beneficial for the city and for them to make that determination. So those are the two agencies I would consider starting with if I were you.
And there's a train of thought that what someone bought before, they'll buy again. And all city procurements are public, so you can see what every one of those agencies bought and the contracts they awarded last year to have an idea of what might be coming down the pipe this year. Also, Columbia is building a new pandemic response institute in conjunction with EDC. So we will be the foremost organization to prevent new pandemics and understand the role that they play, work around the whole vaccine process. It's a very large effort. We are creating the headquarters location right now at the land that used to be Fairway. We're redoing those buildings to house the Pandemic Response Institute, and they'll have an office in every borough. So this is stuff you want to get ahead of and go, who can I write to? Who's leading this? And how can I, because they have a 30% city goal, city MWBE goal, 30% on everything they buy and everything they do because of EDC and where their funding is coming from. This is the kind of thing we want you to hear in meetings like this, because we want you to fine tune your efforts. We don't want you to be shooting like this. We want you to be laser focused.
Okay, can I give, Tanya and I think we're always sharing information, right? And all the folks here, right? In part of the research, right? It does take some research. Find firms like your firm who are certified in the directory, right? As a suggestion, right? Look at their names. Your names goes aligned with their names goes. You can see what types of projects they worked on, right? As well, right? Because many of the companies on the SBS directory, for example, you see like the last 3 contracts that they've worked on and what have you, right? That's another creative way to say, okay, someone that does provide similar services like I do, they worked with HHC or DOHMH, and their contact information will be connected somehow on the city's procurement website. So again, we can talk about it in more detail, but again, you have to be creative in how you find opportunities, especially if you're providing a niche service, right? Because it seems that you're providing a niche service that the city may not buy frequently, but it might be necessary for the city.
I just want to add, because I haven't really heard anyone really speak about the Small Business Administration, the SBA, and they have many programs. One being the Emerging Leaders Program that can actually help you not only perform better with whatever niche you may have, but actually with finances too. So if you're looking for, I think they said they had some session that they gave us last week, but there's so much money for small businesses, they need to give it out, but small businesses are not reaching out to them. So again, it goes back to what exactly are you doing? You have to take first the lead too. We're here to help and assist, but you have to make that initiative, you have to work that out. But that's another program.
Yeah, and I just kind of echo that. There's also a lot of opportunity in the private sector. So there are hospitals with MDD goals, there are researchers that, absolutely want contracts from the government, but you can use your certification. Mount Sinai may have a 25% goal, and they want to make sure that you have that certification. So also go after private sector companies who may have internal goals, and your certification helps them meet those goals.
Is there any agency or any person that we can work with to help us in the process?
PTAC definitely do small business services or other. Every location has a business solution center, but definitely you should try SBS on the city's website as well. There's a link to all the MDBE officers for every agency, as an example. So I would definitely start there. So H&H and Health and Hospital, DOHMH, their MDBE officers will be listed on the city's website and their contact information.
Have you ever been through a capacity building program? That might be a good start to have someone who understands all of this, who's working with you on a regular basis. These programs don't cost money. They just help you build up your firm. So I'm going to give you someone's email to reach out to if that's okay.
Yes.
Because I think that would be helpful to you. Okay. There was a question, and there we go.
Because people can approach the government and say, I think you need this, in a proposal for them. So it's not.
That's a good point.
Please, all right, go ahead.
I also kind of have a suggestion as well. So my company is also a niche service. We do murals, like art murals. We're essentially kind of creating a new market because it could be used for beautification, for advertising, for experiential marketing. And one of the things that was advised to me is to create a white paper on your service. And what that is basically, you explain what your service does, how it can benefit specific industries, and then you can reach out to press to see if they'll publish it. And it can be in super niche outlets, like for example, it's construction, a construction outlet that people that work in that industry read. So that's another advice I wanted to pass on.
Thank you.
By the way, there's a lot of discussion about the beautification of construction sites and like, do we want these ugly green fences up and what can be there instead? That's a big conversation with the murals conversation.
Actually, since talking about that, I think one of the things I wanted to talk about was for any architecture construction companies, that murals are a really great way to go because it ends up being sometimes cheaper for you instead of finding a bunch of individual art pieces. You can have one piece that can change an entire space. You also can play with illusion. So some of the murals on the sides of buildings play with perspective going in and out. And it really creates this entirely different space. And not only that, but employees, if we're having a lot of problems with employee retention, that's another thing that can help with that, having employees excited to come into the office. So if anybody's interested in that.
I think it also beautifies communities.
That as well.
Yeah. You had a question?
Yeah, no, that question. I was just thanking you guys for inviting me to this meeting. Really quick. I'm a service veteran corporation. I got certified last year. It's crazy. I mean, with the bids, like you said, nobody says nobody saw the ability, anything like that. I went to the Small Business Development Center. And anything that I need to know about the SBA funding grants, anything from state, city, anything, the SBA was there to track all the way. But again, I see a lot of people, I know this is supposed to be the MDEs. What about services that you know business corporation? I mean, I'm looking to also get certified as a part of business also. But I would look at SBDOC because it's just a small percentage and you're really strong with government contracts. But reaching out, I think like I'm going to be long. It would be tough for me if I get into the great community law. Well, now it's nice, but I was born to think I can't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's why at Tough Leaf we try to say diverse firms, and that we mean MBEs, WBEs, DBEs, SDVOBs, LBEs. I can keep going, but that's basically we're trying to serve all of the certified firms to help them grow and to help connect them with opportunities. But yeah, definitely get your point on submitting a lot of bids and not hearing back, and that's something we're trying. The tribe mentality we're trying to change in the industry.
I want to stop this, but you guys keep pushing me into this position. Because I just want to mention that at Columbia University, our SBDC, which is it's the Columbia Harlem SBDC, which is in our brand new business school. So come and visit them. They are looking forward to helping you. We've had, for 3 years running, the most successful loan manager of any of the SBDCs in New York State. She gets money for businesses, really understands them and helps them a lot. So if you have an opportunity, please go and visit our SBDC at Columbia University, which happens to be in our brand new business school. Thank you.
And I'll just add that in the 4 billion, we count SDVOBs. I think that you said you're a veteran-owned business, right? Yeah, we count that as part of our goal. And we have state-funded projects, so we are big in Buffalo and Albany, and Buffalo Bills Stadium. We're building the JV with Turner. We need SPVOBs on that project, so if you're willing to go to Buffalo, talk to me.
And you know, as I mentioned, right, our company's competed for that project, we didn't win, but John and I talk all the time, right? We share information and we all work together when it comes to NABE, XBE, or what have you. You know, we're all partners in this effort. So, you know, hopefully that gives some comfort that we're working together and try to, you know, get you all opportunities.
You just mentioned JV. Can you provide, or can we do it at Sidewalk, provide any guidance on how to JV with somebody?
Like for an NWE, okay, so this is a big topic and we could go on forever. So one of the things that we're trying to do now, which I think is an interesting thing and I'm happy about it, is that, you know, I have experience driving participation in the trades. Like that's my main experience, right? But actually sharing services that we can self-perform as a CM, meaning all the CM construction services, sharing that with a firm. And, you know, in terms of a JV, like we took, obviously we did the JV with Turner because we couldn't handle that project with that size by ourselves. That was a marriage of convenience, right? But with MWBEs for smaller, we call it teaming, because sometimes JV is like so technical, we don't have to go there, right? We can do a teaming situation, and so we have so many lessons learned on that because we are trying to do that more and more. Because we talked about integrity before. We're just making sure we get into trades and not doing it all at our level. Is that really integrity? I don't think so. Like we're telling you, you have to do it, but we don't have to do it, right? So it's really a new frontier for us, and we have lessons learned because when it comes to teaming, there's sub-prime relationship anymore. There's personalities involved. There's feelings involved, and there's egos involved. And so we have a whole lessons learned memorandum about how to like really make sure that we're approaching it. We had a lot of lessons learned, right? Like we approach things, you know, we messed up a lot, as did, you know, so anyway, we've come to a place, I can talk to you about it after, but there's a lot of lessons learned, but I'm happy to say we're seeing it more in the industry where it's not necessarily a formal JV, but it's a situation in which two teams are threaded together, not you give us the most junior person and call it a teaming arrangement, right? Where like 4 of my guys, 4 of my people, 5 of your people together in varying roles of significance, that's teaming, right? So making it meaningful for both parties and making sure that the minority partner is growing from the experience, and so that's what we try to aim for. Haven't done it perfectly, but we're trying to do that perfectly because it's important.
At Columbia, we already have our goals on our trades, but how do we do that in the professional services arena? And what we've done is we've inserted language in all of our RFPs that one of the points of assessment will be how they integrated other minority women local sub-consultants into their project. We want to say and do that because sometimes, but for that, they would never be considered. And we want them to know that that's important to us in professional services, in architectural services, you know, even if they have just a small part of the project, that there is going to be some representation on that side. And we see some great responses now with some really unique partnering concepts, which we would never get had we not asked for it. So it takes everybody pushing to make that work, is what I wanted to say.
All right. Well, thank you all for the great questions. A couple of public service announcements. If you didn't claim your Tough Leaf profile and you're an NWBE or SPPOB, DBE, please see me so we can make that work for you. Tough Leaf will never charge you anything, not now, not in 10 years, not forever. Completely free for minority women only certified business. The other thing is we also have our capacity building partners in the room. So if you wanna, say hi and see what they can help you with, we have Heartland, Casey's sitting right over there. They can help you with your payroll services, tax benefits, and so on. We have Daryl sitting over there that can help you with insurance as well. And I think, did I miss anyone? Okay. Oh, also go to Tough Leaf. look at our partners page and you'll see all of our capacity building partners. One program I can highlight is LIST is giving up to $400,000 in loans that can become grants for minority-owned businesses. So that's obviously, it's $400,000, 0% interest, right? So 0% interest when the bank is asking for 7%, it's like free money. So talk to us if you're interested in that. We can help connect you with any of the partners. Again, we'll never charge you anything. The other thing is please eat pizza or my son is gonna get depressed because we have 10 big, large slices here that no one touched yet, so please eat some more. And that's it, thanks for coming.
Thank you.